Time for what?
Time for what?
Experience in college.
Time for reinforcement.
Time for liftoff!
Where nothing is impossible unless you think it is impossible.
College.
I have my college scholarship.
Yes. Boom.
College ran by real fast.
You hung in with the best college.
First time for everything.
Well, what are you waiting for?
What are you waiting for?
Let's do this thing.
Genius, let's do this thing!
Welcome to the show, everyone. We have here Rob, graduate of St. Ignatius in San Francisco, who is also an alum from Boston University.
Yes, go Terriers.
Rob, introduce yourself to our audience.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Rob. I graduated from SI about a decade ago and attended Boston University for the College of Fine Arts, for specifically the conservatory at Boston University. I graduated with a degree in theater, and then after that pursued education instead. And, certainly I think that's going to be part of what I talk about is, what that transition looked like while I was at college. But then, I also was incredibly passionate about Boston. It's a really fun city to be a student. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Boston University is not a hard sell because it's a major city, because there's so many attractions.
Yeah.
You also, a lot of people care that it's a college town. Could you explain that to all of us West Coast folks?
Yeah, well, it's a college city, right? No city or no metropolitan area in the country probably in the world, has as many higher education institutions as Boston. So that means that there's a great infrastructure set up for college students. There are events that cater to college students. There are, sort of exciting things to do that cater to younger adults. And it's just a great place to be. And also lots of great places to live if you are a student that are, between colleges. So for example, a lot of Boston BU students live in a neighborhood called Alston-Brighton. That's also where a lot of Boston College students live. So even though we have this fierce rivalry, it's actually not uncommon for BU and BC students to live together because they both share that neighborhood, and public transportation gets you to both places. So in that sense, you have all of these different colleges, from some really well-known names to some colleges that do really amazing work that are on the smaller side. So it's just a really great environment to be a student, and you are surrounded by incredibly smart people. I mean, you go to a restaurant, you might be having a conversation with someone about particle physics, and their friend is a world-leading New Testament scholar. That's not uncommon when you are in that sort of higher education, collegiate atmosphere.
You're not exaggerating. I was at a cafe and there was these Harvard medical students, and I was just staring at them. Wasn't stalking, but they may have thought I was stalking and doing that. But there's also some great schools, like you're right. Everyone thinks about Harvard, MIT, because it's right across the river.
You can see them from BU's campus.
You can. You have a beautiful view of it. But there's also like Wentworth and other, like Suffolk, so many other great smaller schools in a big city.
Yeah.
But we're here.
And I mean, we're not talking about these schools because we're talking about BU, but a lot of those smaller schools, you mentioned Suffolk, Emmanuel, there's a whole area, and the name's escaping me right now, but there's this whole area where a lot of the colleges share resources. So a lot of the smaller schools will share resources with each other to compete with the larger, more resourced schools.
Yeah, and you're also competing for tickets. Like Fenway is very close to BU,
yes.
right? Walking distance. So tell me, what got you interested in applying to BU, and then what other schools were you thinking about back then?
Yeah, so I was applying as a theater major, right? And anyone who is going into the arts just has a little bit of a different college experience, right? I was looking for schools with BFA programs primarily, and BFA is Bachelor of Fine Arts. That means that I was effectively in a career, like a very fancy career training program for the arts, right? You would also say BFA for visual arts if you're going or some dance programs. If you're going music, it's a bachelor's of music, but it's that similar conservatory experience. So I had more limited options. And a lot of my options were the schools that I wanted were also in large cities. I love cities. I've always lived in one. And as an artist, I knew that I wanted to be be surrounded by cultural institutions. So Boston fit the bill. My top 4 choices were Emerson College, which is a small liberal arts college also in Boston, in downtown Boston, that also has a very good theater program. NYU, I was specifically looking at the Playwrights Horizons program, and then Fordham University, which was a BA in theater, but it's obviously in New York. I was looking at that Lincoln Center campus.
Yeah. Denzel Washington graduated
Exactly,
from there.
exactly. And so those were my top 4 choices, right? And one of the reasons that BU really stood out for me was that it, like NYU, it was attached to a big university, but it was also a little better integrated with the larger university. I did want a collegiate experience. I did want to be around people who were not just studying theater, and I absolutely got that at BU.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because if anyone walks down BU, which is really what's that name of that street?
Commonwealth Avenue, Com Ave.
Okay, how long is Commonwealth Avenue?
Well, Commonwealth Avenue goes, I think, almost into downtown and like well out into the suburbs.
Right.
So the part that is Boston University's campus is about 2 miles long. And when you look at some, other peer institutions of BU would definitely be, I'd say, NYU and George Washington University. Those, all 3 of those schools get lumped together. In my opinion, George Washington and NYU are a lot more dispersed, right? It sort of almost looks like a splatter in the city, right? You do have an area where it's more concentrated, but then, the campus buildings sort of spread out pretty far. Boston University, it's pretty concentrated across 2 miles. It's a very long campus.
Don't walk it on a hot day.
No, exactly. Yeah. And there was a shuttle which we used frequently. That's one of the nice things. It actually does feel like a college campus. And I hear a lot of people sort of who did not attend criticize it, saying, "Oh, but where's the BU campus?" And I'm like, it's actually fairly well defined.
It's well defined. There's no towering gate.
There's no gates.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted. That's very much what I wanted in a college, and I took advantage of it. I mean, I regularly attended theater performances throughout Boston, went to Fenway games, went to the Red Sox. So that is something that I personally think is a positive.
Yeah, I mean, and also BU is a Division I school.
Yes.
Yeah, so we could go to those games too. I missed on going one of them, but there's the Bruins.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a very sports place, but there's also a big theater town too.
Pennant City, because they've won so many, or at least in the past decade or so.
Very successful over there. But the reason why I'm glad you're mentioning that, because if you walk down Commonwealth, what stands out is their business program. You'll see their brand new building for their data science. So a lot of people think it's STEM, business, and they don't know about this great conservatory that they have there. Like there's even stage management, which is very hard to find. I mean, not some classes, but a bachelor's program in stage management. Yeah. So can you talk about the wealth of that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, any college, it's, you can sort of say, okay, what are the new buildings? And that tells you a little bit about the priorities of that institution. And what's great, granted it happened after I had graduated, BU just built a huge new state-of-the-art theater, ironically called the Booth Theater, which, John Wilkes Booth, I thought was a little funny, but it's named after a donor, and it's a really incredible theater. While I was there, we used a theater off campus, so this definitely allows a lot more integration. But the School of Theater at BU had both performance and what's called design and production. So you can not only get a BFA in acting or theater arts, which is what I did, you could also get a BFA in stage management, lighting design, scenic design, sound design, costume construction. Like you could get all of these different degrees, even production management, right? So we effectively had a theater company, right? We put on 25 shows a year. I mean, lots of them were very small little studio shows, but we were constantly creating theater. It was a really cool environment. And in the academic building, there's also a School of Visual Arts and a very, very well-renowned School of Music. And so all of us, occasionally work together on stuff, and just in general, being in a building where you're surrounded by paintings and music and actors, it's a very cool environment. environment.
It is. And then also, if people are not from BU, if you just say, oh, what school you're going to or which one you graduate, BU is like, oh, what a great school.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you mentioned business, a lot of STEM programs that are really well known. I would also like to say almost anything at BU, because it is so big, you are going to have world-renowned scholars in it. Even some of the small departments have people. I happened upon an art history class in my junior year with the person who just very casually, founded the academic field that she was in. I mean, it was pretty jaw-dropping. It's a big school.
So that's great that you mentioned that. It's a big school that
Yes.
gets tons of applications as well, too. I'm not even going to say what the admissions rate is because I know it's going to just change, next season again. But you had to be pretty prepared, not only as a student, but also outside. Like, I know that we had some students who wanted to go BU but didn't have the math requirement. And they're like, you can't get in. So can you talk about, especially if you're doing something like a fine arts program, how much preparation do you have?
Yeah.
How scholarly? Because a lot of times students are like, oh, I have to be that perfect student. It's like, yeah, or I have to be that perfect activities person. What is it for you notice that BU is looking for?
Yeah, so, every college is going to look for something a little bit different, right? The College of Fine Arts, you have to audition for school. It's a very strange experience. The engineering college is obviously going to look for really strong math and science students. And at BU, you do apply to the college. The College of Fine Arts, being a conservatory degree, if you transferred out, you could, but you would have to spend an extra year at BU, right? And so that's something to keep in mind, is that generally speaking, you do have to know what you want to do. And there is one exception to that. The College of General Studies. BU does have a program for undecided students. You spend a year, maybe 2 years, in a core curriculum. And then from that core curriculum, you can transfer into other programs. And you also do a really cool capstone project in CGS. I knew a lot of College of General Studies, CGS, BU. Every school say they love acronyms. No one loves it more than BU. I guarantee that. The CGS, I had a lot of friends because they were also in the same area of campus and their academic building was next to mine. So from there, you can transfer into almost any program at the university. One of the exceptions is the College of Fine Arts. Because it is such a structured 4-year program, you would have to spend at least 1 extra year if you transferred into the College of Fine Arts. And I think there are certain rules about, obviously I don't know it was a decade ago that I attended, I don't know the details, but I think you have to have certain things before you transfer into engineering. But it can be one of those ways of continuing to explore a little bit, right?
No, there's more of those opportunities to transfer over. It's interesting because on Common App I asked, would you consider doing general studies? I know so many of my students will say no, because I want to make sure I have this option. And it's kind of valid, no different than their kids going to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. Well, what if, the social life dictates my GPA a little bit more than it's doing right now, right? So there's some valid concerns about that. But the thing is, there's some opportunity. I think BU is very flexible. But I think the thing is that a lot of students don't know is because how large this private school is. So can you share with me, because I think a lot of times when students pick a school, they pick the name, the reputation, the location, let's go. And they don't think about the everyday experiences in the classroom, outside the classroom, support services. Tell me, what type of personality, if you had to say in 2 or 3 words, you were as a high school student first?
Yes. I was pretty outgoing. I was very outgoing, really friendly. I was friends with almost everybody. So I knew that a large environment was going to fit me really well. BU is big. BU has 16,000 undergraduates and about as many graduate students. So it is a huge community. And I was in the College of Fine Arts, right? I had this really great community, this really great family. I don't know, for any of you who go on to do theater training, it's very personal, right? And so I had a great team that was there to support me. A lot of people, maybe they don't realize BU is as big as it is. If you're in the College of Arts and Sciences, you are one of a few thousand students, right? Your academic advisors have a really big caseload. And some students who have more initiative or have developed that sense of initiative are really going to thrive in that environment, right? But it is a big environment, and it is an environment that can be very lonely. I had a friend who studied education there, and BU's education School of Ed was great when we went, and has recently even gotten a lot more high profile because they absorbed Wheelock College of Education. But while she was there, she really felt lost and was never quite able to get over that because she hadn't really found her voice yet. She hadn't been able to, speak up and say, hey, I don't feel like I'm getting the opportunities that, I thought I was going to get here. And so she ended up transferring, right? And so each student is, the students who do well at BU are the students who are really able to drive their education. They're the ones who are able to come in and say, this is the opportunity that I want. I've done my research. This is what I'm going to go pursue. And so just really being, acknowledging the size of the community, it's a place where one can get lost.
Yeah, so tell me if I'm saying this wrong. So I've had a lot of family members who've gone to UCs, private schools, both medium and large. But BU is its own thing, where I'll say this could easily feel like a UC campus.
Yes, it does.
Unless you're in a special program like the one that you were in. I've had students who have gone to nursing, but at UCLA. I've had athletes go to BU, love it, but then they'll have another sibling who was an athlete, just regular student there, couldn't find their place.
Yeah.
Like you said, couldn't find their voice, couldn't find their advisor.
Yeah.
Not saying all BU advisors are there, but
definitely.
Any campus, it's going to be that advisor, like, where's my advisor?
Yeah. Well, I had a funny experience. I had a religion minor while I was at BU, and that is one really cool thing. You can minor in almost any. As a conservatory student, I couldn't double major, but I had this really awesome minor in College of Arts and Science and Religious Studies, and my advisor changed twice, and my second advisor was this world famous author.
I don't know, that's either great or terrible.
Well, and so I really had to think, do I bring the book to get it signed by him? And he was also my professor, so I sort of understood, his sense of humor, but it also was and I was a religion minor, but I was like, this person doesn't know who I am, But then I think one of the nice things about College of General Studies is if you are in that CGS, you do have a lot more support, right? So again, it's going to be, everyone's going to have a little bit of a different path, but...
Definitely. Now, let's talk a little bit about the dorms, because BU will invest, and I want you to talk about not your dorm experience. I want to just talk about the facilities, because I've been there to a couple of the dorm rooms, and I flash back to my dorm room, and I'm very old, past a half century, and I'm like, okay, we need to go to Target and get Febreze. You said you've been to BU, you're very young, but you didn't just graduate, but I just went to BU this last year, and I see all these great buildings, but what's up with the dorms? Now, they do have amazing houses, they have theme houses, so whether you're in the Greek life or not, and I love those because I can see the energy of the kids. They're talking to each other, moving sofas.
Yeah.
And then there's a different, there's these towers that are all over on the BU campus.
Yeah.
And that have not been updated for a while.
Boston University has amazing upperclassmen housing. I think that's the most diplomatic way of saying it. And BU does guarantee housing for all 4 years, which for a school of its size is mind-boggling. That being said, one of the ways they can do that is because a lot of the underclassmen dorms are very dense, they're fairly old, and might not have air conditioning, which during a Boston winter is not a problem. They do have heat. During a Boston summer, and of course, we know summers are getting larger and hotter, that was a rough first 2 weeks of my freshman year.
I've heard of sheets
Campus.
Needing to be washed the next day.
Oh yeah. And it's, in some ways, it's a very standard box college dorm, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's certainly nothing elaborate. What is nice is all of the dining halls are pretty good. The dining halls at BU are pretty good.
No, the food is really good.
And have gotten better since I've been there.
Bring your Tupperware.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the dorms are going to be incredibly simple, basic dorms. And, in some ways that fosters a lot of community, right? You hang out together, you are in close quarters with your fellow freshmen, for better or for worse.
And, the activities, there are tons of activities, but it goes back to what you were saying. As a student, as someone who's not a student afterwards, you need to go out there. I tell students, you have to, and when you're going to a large school like that, whether it's USC, BU, a UC, a Cal State, you have to be aggressive. Whether it be the advisor in the classroom, all that good experience.
Yeah.
So now that you're stepped away from BU, any reflections about someone who's thinking about going to BU, whether they should go or not go?
Yeah. I mean, I think that if you are already looking at large public schools, Boston University is going to feel similar, right? And you also get some of the interesting opportunities and resources of being at a private school, right? But it is with that size of a public school. And so just making sure that you understand you are going to be stepping into that very large environment. It's a place that does sort of have endless possibilities. I mean, I had a really sort of crazy route there. I mean, in a lot of conservatories, if I, exercised the academic freedom that I did at BU, I would have been kicked out of the conservatory. And so I was thankful for that freedom. That's sort of a unique thing. And I think it's still there, right? This idea that if you really want an opportunity and you're willing to fight for it, and, in my situation, I was, you're going to have it, and it's going to be pretty life-changing. One of the great things about BU is that you get to listen and learn from some of the best scholars in your fields. I mean, I was able to hear Elie Wiesel speak, the author of Night. I was able to hear him speak a few months before he passed away. Abramix Kendi is now on the faculty at
oh my
BU.
God. So can you tell everyone who that is
Yeah,
in case they don't know?
He wrote How to Be an Anti-Racist. He's been a racism/anti-racism/Black Studies scholar,
right.
In the field for a while. And his books are wide-reaching and cover a lot of different topics related to the history of race in America.
Yeah, and he's in charge of a center focusing on that for the entire BU community.
Yeah, in 2020 or 2021, Boston University sort of founded a Center for Anti-Racism or Anti-Racist Research or something along those lines. And it's headed by this world-famous author, Abramix Kendi. And again, those are some of those things where it's like, I have never individually talked to Abramix Kendi or, Elie Wiesel, but you might learn from them, right?
Yes.
That's very BU. That feels very BU in many different ways.
No, it's an exciting place, and it's really open. And I think the thing is, because like you said, I think the key thing about BU, it's endless opportunities.
Yes.
So if you look at endless opportunities, I think of it like a closet. If you walk in a walk-in closet, oh my, there's so many choices to make.
Yes.
And you feel excited about it, and you're like, okay, I could try this, this, and this. That's a great campus. But if you're like, oh my goodness, where do I start?
Exactly.
Maybe not BU, because it is flexible. I've known some people were in theater, computer science. Oopsie, that was a bad choice. And then went to communication. There's some flexibility over there, but they're also open to a lot of things. There are Posse Partner School, and I know that Posse has done a great job working with students who have worked there to give that more of that attention as well too.
And I think one other thing that I want to mention about BU is that with 16,000 undergraduate students, Boston University is still a PWI. There is no doubt about that. It is also pretty diverse, and you have people coming from lots of different backgrounds, all over the world. I mean, I think in terms of geographic diversity and international diversity, BU is really incredible. And so you end up meeting people from lots of different walks of life. And part of that is due to the sheer size of the institution.
No. I think the international population, for some recent students, have said, wow, is really grown. And so it's very, you could tell, you just go to the Starbucks on Commonwealth.
Yes,
you could see all different, that
hear
are
multiple different languages as well.
Definitely. Yeah. Now, tell everyone, what's BWI stand for?
PWI stands for predominantly white institutions. So if you think of, sort of the opposite of HBCU, right?
Yes.
A historically black college or university. The majority of universities in America, the reality is they are predominantly white, and they reflect the systems of power that created them. And so lots of colleges are reckoning with that and making taking steps or trying to take steps to change that. And, Boston University is definitely among them.
And any last words of wisdom for someone who's never heard of Boston University, applying to Boston University, or kind of considering whether they should go or not to Boston University?
Yeah. Really think about what you want that first year to look. If you're really excited about, exploration and being in a place where you can sort of do anything, move towards your goal, College of General Studies might be a really good choice. If you're an artist, you think about, what type of art do I want to create in my first year? College of Fine Arts is going to be a really great place for you. I think there were, at least when I graduated, there were 9 undergraduate colleges, right? They each have something they specialize in. And then College of General Studies, which specializes in not specializing. So if you're able to picture yourself in one of those environments and you're able to see yourself, early on taking opportunities and stepping out of your comfort zone, BU is going to be great. If you want a place where you are going to have more support and more guidance, then I think there's going to be other options that are going to fit the bill better, right?
I think like BU will open the door if you knock on it, but if you don't knock on the door, they won't open it for you or grab you by the hand. So that's just something to know. But also, again, endless opportunity. It is a school in recent years that meets full need. It's a great opportunity to check it out. So please check out Boston University. It's done wonders for Rob. And thank you for joining us here on our podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Until next time, guys.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your precious day to listen to us. So subscribe so that you could download this podcast wherever you may be. We're on so many different streaming devices, but also you can find out more information about College for All at college4all.com. We're also on Twitter at collegeforall.amv, Instagram collegeforall.amv, and more to come. Thank you and have an amazing day.